Hello, Professor Toybox here along with Phineas, and today I'm going to implement Meap's side quest to defeat some aliens that have landed on Earth. In the TV series, Meap was a cute little alien that crash-landed into Phineas and Ferb's yard one day. They helped him fix his spaceship and soon discovered that Meap is an intergalactic security agent. He showed up in a few different episodes, and the boys helped him with his missions, so I thought it would be fun to include Meap in my toy box. And I don't have a townsperson for Meap, unfortunately, so what I decided to use instead is this alien ham character from the Disney Infinity 1.0 playset townspeople drawer. And he looks a little like Meap, so that'll have to be close enough. So I've placed him down, and to save a little bit of time, I've already gone into his properties and set the behavior to stand still. And I've also placed down the Creativitoys that I need. And all I've done is place these out of the Creativitoys drawer. We have a radar marker and a dynamic trigger so that we can set him up as a mission giver. And we're going to reuse the text displayer that we've been using. And that's kind of why I'm leaving all of these Creativitoys out here so we can easily get at them. And I've placed some locators because for the second phase of this mission, we need several enemy wave generators to implement 3 waves of alien enemies to battle. And so you can kind of see where I've placed my locators here. And I've stuck down a enemy wave generator over here and connected it up to those locators. And you do that again by going into the logic menu and doing a new locator connection for each and every one of those. And over here we have some additional locators, one in the backyard there on the right, a couple of them in the street, and one on either side of the street. And I've hooked up this enemy wave generator to those locators. And then I've put down a third enemy wave generator over here. And again, to save time, I've hooked that up to some locators as well. So I have 2 in the street there. I've got 2 over here in this corner. And I've got 1 over here in the street. And this one I hooked up to that enemy wave generator last, because that's where the big bad enemy is going to appear. So this one's hooked up to those 5 locators. The one over here is hooked up to these 5. And the one over here is hooked up to these 5. Alright, so let's get started by creating a mission giver out of our townsperson here. And to do that, we'll come into the dynamic trigger. Oops, that's a timer. Put down the wrong toy. Let's go ahead and delete that. This will work a lot better if I have a dynamic trigger. Kind of looked a little bit like it. There we go. Okay, so we'll hook that up with a new actor connection. We'll connect that up to our little alien here. It'll be the actor. And then on the properties for the dynamic trigger, target needs to be the connected actor. And trigger distance, I'm going to set this to be 6. So we're setting this up just like we did for Ferb. On the radar marker, we'll do a new actor connection. We'll connect that up to alien ham. And in the properties for the radar marker, I'm going to leave the beacon type as a blue exclamation point, because blue is for side quests. So I'm using Ferb as my primary mission giver. This will be a secondary side quest mission giver. And the beacon location is the connected actor, and I want this on by default when we come into the toy box. So for our mission giver, on the dynamic trigger, when the player enters the radius around the townsperson, this will go off. So we want to do a new logic connection. When entered by player any, first thing we're going to do is come down to our text displayer And we're going to go down to the survival modes drawer. And he's going to say prepare for enemy attack. And that gives the player a good idea of what to expect. The second thing we're going to do on the dynamic trigger is a new logic connection when entered by player any. We want to turn off the radar marker. And on the radar marker, a new logic connection when it's deactivated, we'll turn around and turn off this dynamic trigger because we only want to do this once. And because we're turning those off, it's probably a good idea to hook our reset button up to that to turn those back on so we can test it multiple times. And I could hook up the button directly to that, but I think I'll just use the level starter because the button's hooked up to that anyway. So on the level starter, a new logic connection on catalyze. We'll come up here to the dynamic trigger and we'll turn that on. And we'll do the same thing for the radar marker. So a new logic connection on catalyze on the level starter. Come up to the radar marker and activate it. All right, and there is our mission giver. He's pretty much set up and ready to go. Now, one last thing I thought would be kind of fun is under the Gameplay Toys drawer, if you have the Stitches Tropical Rescue 2.0 toy box game, you have these little spaceships here. And this one kind of looks like the ship that Meap came in after Ferb tricked it out. So I'm going to drop that here. And one downside with this is that when you come up this pipe and come on the roof, that will actually attack you. So you could put that on a team and put the player on a team to prevent that, but I'm not going to do that because I thought it would be kind of fun just to dodge it a little bit. And maybe when Meap landed, this got broken and it's going to attack you. But anyway, all right, the last thing we want to do with this dynamic trigger is kick off the enemy wave generator, the first one. So we'll do a new logic connection when entered by player any. We're going to come over to the first enemy wave generator over here by Phineas's house. And we'll generate the wave. And let's go ahead and set this up while we're here. So we'll configure the wave. And we'll come in here and hit the plus sign. Now, when I did the playthrough for this toy box back in episode 1, you'll remember I ran into a problem where some of the enemies weren't being destroyed. And I've done some experimenting, and I think that happens for me more consistently when I have multiple enemy types being put out by a single enemy wave generator. And so rather than put out a mix of types, I'm going to put just one type here. And I'll set the count to be 5. And under the properties, everything here is fine, but I'm going to take the generation delay to 0. Okay. And that will put an enemy at each of those locators. And then on this enemy wave generator, we'll do a new logic connection when the wave, whoops, not when the wave is generated, cancel. New logic connection when the wave is defeated. We'll come down to the next one and generate that wave. And under this one, we'll configure this wave to use the other kind of enemy. So rather than putting out a mix of enemies with both of these, we'll just put down a mix of these, and I'll set the count again for 5. Once again under the properties, take that to 0. And then we'll do a new logic connection when this wave is defeated. Come down the street to the next one. So you can see I'm kind of luring the player down this way. And we'll generate that wave. And for this one, when we configure the wave. Usually when I see that problem and you can't kill an enemy, your bullets aren't having any effect and it seems to be indestructible, I found that it's usually because I've got 2 different enemies in there. So if you have 3 or more, it doesn't seem to happen, at least on my Wii U. So I'm going to put down, let me go back out first. I want to do that in a different order. So I'm going to delete that. I want to put the weaker enemy in there first. So I want to put the red enemy in there. Then the blue one. And I'm going to use this one for the big villain, because I don't have any enemy that looks like Meap's arch-nemesis, Mitch, but I'll just use one of these guys, and I think he looks the most menacing and he's pretty powerful, so we'll put him in there. And so I'll set the count on this one to 2, that one to 2, and I'll leave that set at 1. And then under the properties, again, generation delay to 0. And since those are hooked up to those locators and I hooked this one up last, that's where the big bad one will show up, is at this locator. And once all of these guys are defeated, the mission's over. So we'll come in here and do a new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, come over to our sound effect generator. Under the musical category, I'll play the Fanfare, which again is what I like to play to indicate to the player that the mission's over and they've succeeded. And we'll also do a new logic connection when the wave is defeated. We'll hook up to this action enforcer, which I did put down earlier as well. And we're going to have all of the players celebrate. And there we are. That is our mission. It's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it. So let's go ahead and test it out. So we'll put Phineas on the rooftop. This thing is immediately going to turn to attack. And then it'll leave him alone for a minute. He says, prepare for enemy attack. So we'll head down to the street. You'll notice all of those enemies have now showed up. And I've got a bit of lag here. That's really interesting. There it goes. Not sure why I had all that lag. Whoa! Oh, now we got another one of those enemies. That's interesting. This particular enemy seems to be the one that I have the problem with. Until I can destroy him, he's not going to do anything with the with setting off the rest of those enemies. So let's do this. I'm going to hook my button up here. So new logic connection, when pressed, will come over and defeat the wave. I should probably do that with those other enemy wave generators as well. And we'll come back in here. And maybe instead of using that guy, let me go ahead and delete that. Maybe I'll just continue to use him. And I'll set the count to 5. All right. So I'll go ahead and press that button, which removes that enemy. And of course now Candace is active, so I got to come over here. Turn that off. Now I can get back in my editor. And to save a little time, I'll go put myself back up on top of that roof. And now let's see what happens with those enemies. Alright, so Meap says prepare for enemy attack. Now I don't have that lag. That's interesting. I wonder if that's connected somehow. Okay, so we took care of him. Oop, I destroyed the phone booth. Guess I gotta watch out for that. Although at this point in the game it doesn't really matter. Just if you want to reset. Okay, so that takes care of these enemies. Now the next wave should generate. And there they are.
Sorry about that.
Alright, one more. Oh, he's hiding behind the wall over here. There we go. Okay. And now we got some more aliens down here. Let's see if I can... Oh, I can hurt that guy, so that's good. Sometimes those things work and sometimes they don't. He somehow got behind me. Okay, one more of him and then the big bad guy. There we are. So that's it for Meap's quest. It's pretty easy to build, and it provides another activity for Phineas to do in this toy box. If you want to build this quest for yourself, or one like it, you can find logic diagrams on my blog to help you out. Once again, the link is in the video description. And as always, if you enjoy my videos and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, just click my photo in the lower right corner of the video. Well, that's all for me today. Take care.